Do you support Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act?
Affordable Care Act.
And why is that?
Well, I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Obama, so I don't support him in the Obama things that he's got going on. I'm actually really excited for President-elect Donald Trump, so.
Right. So you don't like anything Obama does, and you prefer the Affordable Care Act?
Absolutely.
And which plan do you support, Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act?
The Affordable Care Act.
And what is it about Obamacare that you do not like?
I just think that there's a lot of holes in it, and it needs to be revamped. I think
And you think
hasn't been thought out.
You think the Affordable Care Act is a better plan than Obamacare?
Better, but I'm not happy with that either.
What do you agree with, Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act?
I'm more sort towards the Affordable Care Act, but I'm also very sympathetic for people that don't have the ability to have proper medical insurance.
So the Affordable Health Care Act is still a better option than
Yes.
Obamacare?
Yes.
And why do you not agree with the Affordable Care Act?
Well, I think it's not really available for all.
So the Affordable Care Act is more affordable than Obamacare?
Just the name says it all.
Right. You would agree with the Affordable Care Act?
Absolutely. I think it's nice that everyone can afford it, and everyone should be able to afford it, but to force people to pay something and then doctors to make something, limiting their ability to do their job, that's kind of anti-American.
Right. So Obamacare is un-American?
I think it's kind of un-American to force people. What if they can't afford it? What if they want more coverage?
And the Affordable Care Act is American?
I think it's more American because it allows people to make their own choices on what they want and who they want to work with.
So sometimes the biggest lessons life gives isn't in a classroom. It's at the doctor's office. And so millions of Americans who proudly voted against Obamacare are now waking up to a harsh truth that the Affordable Care Act they depended on for years was Obamacare all along. And now, as the GOP plays political roulette with the government shutdown, the very system keeping them healthy is hanging by a thread. And so, welcome to FAFO season, where economic reality collides with political delusion, and the consequences are deeply personal. Now, let's unpack the irony America's finally paying for.
An unemployed Trump voter who said they voted for Trump because he promised to kill Obamacare, but says he hopes Trump keeps his hands off the Affordable Care Act, which he relies upon. Obamacare is the Affordable Care Act. Here's what this guy wrote online. He wrote the following, quote, I just voted for him because he's going to kill Obamacare. I am unemployed and Obamacare effing sucks. I'd rather just have the ACA, the Affordable Care Act, by itself instead of this communism shit. And then someone responded to him by saying, Obamacare is the ACA. It is literally keeping you alive. You voted to take away your health care.
People are breaking down on TikTok because they just realized Obamacare is the Affordable Care Act. The heartbreaking part, so many have pre-existing conditions. One man admitted he voted for Trump without knowing it was Obamacare that allowed his mother with stage 4 cancer to get treatment. This is what happens when misinformation wins out over facts. So we've got Trump voters out here with pre-existing conditions who are out there crying because they just figured out that Obamacare, it's actually the Affordable Care Act. Seriously? These are the same folks who just voted to repeal the very law that's been helping them out. It's kind of mind-blowing, isn't it? Like, they've been living life thinking they're good, all thanks to, you guessed it, Obamacare. This situation is a classic reminder of why it's so important to stay informed about what's really going on. I mean, understanding these things shouldn't be rocket science. Google is free. Don't Google after the election, Google before. But we've got all the information at our fingertips, but some folks still don't bother to dig a little deeper. It's frustrating to see people get caught up in political rhetoric without really knowing what they're voting for.
All of these Trump voters admitting that they didn't realize that Obamacare was the Affordable Care Act when they vehemently hated Obamacare is one of the most openly racist things I've ever seen in my life. Like, I don't understand how they don't have the critical thinking and the thought process to just know not to say that out loud because of just how simply racist it is that they were so against Obamacare just because they associated it with Obama, which was the point. That's why Republicans coined Obamacare, so that racist people would hate it without understanding what it was. And that's exactly what they're admitting happened by saying they hated Obamacare and they thought Trump was going to get rid of Obamacare, but they have the Affordable Care Act. and they didn't realize they were the same thing.
Serious question for the Republicans who didn't know that the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare were the same thing. What was the thought process there? Did you think that you had the Affordable Care Act because it was for Republicans and Obamacare was for the Democrats? Did you think that Obama was still helping with Obamacare? Like, did you think Obama was running it? What did you think the main difference was between Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act? Like, did you just think, like, Obamacare was the more liberal insurance and you just got, like, the more non-liberal insurance? I'm not even trying to be mean. I'm genuinely so fascinated by this blunder. I can understand not getting tariffs, sure. I'm just... If we didn't think they were the same thing, what did we think they were? How did we think they were different? Like, when you got your Affordable Care Act coverage, did you specifically say, no Obamacare for me, only Affordable Care Act? Did you think that Trump was going to take away the free Obamacare insurance for Democrats, but not the Affordable Care Act insurance for Republicans?
Tell me they know that it's the same thing, right? They know that Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act are the same thing, right? Because why do I see so many videos today of people who have talked to family, friends, loved ones, coworkers that voted for Trump, and that those people were like, I didn't know that he was going to cut Affordable Care. I thought it was Obamacare that he was cutting. Are those real conversations, or are y'all just straight up lying to me? Because there's no way that this many people thought they were two separate things, right? And listen, this hits home to me because I'm a self-employed girly now, and I'm literally in the process of enrolling for the Affordable Care Act, which I really hope stays around.
It's one of those moments in American history where the irony writes itself. And for over a decade, Republican politicians have weaponized the term Obamacare, turning it into a dirty word, a symbol of everything they claimed was wrong with the big government. They held rallies, they passed bills, and even shut down parts of the government, trying to repair it really. But what many of those same voters didn't realize is that the Affordable Care Act, the very policy keeping their prescriptions affordable and their hospital visit covered, was the same thing. And so the only difference was the branding. And now with the GOP's latest shutdown threatening federal funding, millions of Americans, including those who once cheered on its dismantling, are facing a brutal reality. Their healthcare lifeline could vanish overnight. And so the same system they fought to destroy is the one they can't afford to lose. Now, it's a tragic but poetic twist in the American story. Families across red states are calling their senators, hospitals are freezing coverage updates, and doctors are warning patients that delays could be deadly. Yet the loudest complaints aren't coming from progressives, they're coming from MAGA strongholds. And so the same people who once shouted, keep your government hands off my healthcare, are realizing the government was their healthcare. And that's the chilling beauty of political irony. When the slogans fade, the reality remains. And so the GOP's anti-ACA crusade have turned into an economic own goal where the markets are trembling, small towns hospitals are cutting staff, and even conservative governments are quietly admitting that they need federal funding to stay afloat. And so it's not just about healthcare anymore, it's about credibility, it's about compassion, and the cost of blind loyalty. And so here we are, America in 2025 still arguing over healthcare as millions risk losing it entirely. And so this isn't just a policy debate, it's a human reckoning, the story of how disinformation and partisanship led everyday Americans to vote against their own well-being. And so a reminder, just sometimes the real cost of a political decision doesn't show up at the ballot box, it does show up at the pharmacy counter.